What we have now is a bunch of photographs that have been taken since toward the end of last year until now. So we'll go through them and I'll give you some idea of the tightness of the construction and how congested it really is.
A little bit better? We didn't have the screen, but right here in the front.
It's a little shorter, but if you do want these, we have them. But this shows the VA of that west facility under construction. I'm just going to go through them quick, but I'll give you an idea of what the site has been like. This is the blower building and the parapet masonry wall block installation. The blower building, and that's the roofing air vapor barrier installation. The blower building, the south wall brick installation. CN cells 1 through 8, the gallery north side grading. CN cells 1 through 8, nozzle decks at the north cells. CN cells 1 through 8, nozzle decks at the north cells. CN cell number 2, nozzle deck installation. CN cells 9 through 14, this is cell number 10, slope benching and concrete placement. CN cells 9 through 14, cell 14, benching, formwork and reinforcing steel. CN cells 9 through 14, gallery west side, the bonding agent prior to concrete topping. The DN filter complex, beam reinforcing steel and forms. Generator building, installing permanent windows. Methanol storage facility. Methanol fill trench, slab on grade concrete placement. Methanol fill trench, structural steel erection. Sludge thickener number 1, bonding agent prior to concrete placement. Sludge thickener number 1, influent pipe installation. The sludge handling building, the lime silo tank delivery. Solids handling building, lime silo installation.
Just Ryan, do you guys really want to see all this right now, or do you want me to make this available to you on a thumb drive?
Thumb drive. Thumb drive.
Be a lot easier, Ryan, and they can actually see it and stuff. So what I can do is thumb drive he has, I'll make copies. I have here. I will make them available and get them out to you today. That way you could have the entire thumb drive, the whole presentation you just put together, and make a copy of it, and I can get it out to each of you so you guys can review the construction and everything else from the facilities.
Okay, good. So that will contain detail of the projects to be done. He's already handed out the new process diagram that the plant will be operating with.
Okay.
We're also going to have the PowerPoint, which shows all the different construction that's being done there and some description of it. And we'll have photographs that show these items under construction. You also have a schedule, and that schedule will show when the various construction projects are expected to come online. So that's quite a bit of information. It's quite a project, which is probably the reason why you're all sitting here and listening to me talk right there.
Okay, one more thing while you're speaking.
Sure.
Do you want to address the other issue on the RFP that there was the other mistake?
Yes, I will. There's one other mistake in the RFP. I'd like to blame it on the lawyers, but I made it myself. Being an engineer, rather than use a formula, I tried to put it in lawyer speak, and I failed. So let's go to the evaluation criteria, which is this is on page 21. This is the cost. So it says the proposal with the lowest cost will receive full point value. That's correct. Other proposals will receive the product of, and this says, 10 points multiplied by the percentage of the proposal's cost, and the higher the lowest cost proposal. That's backwards, okay? That gives the high bidder more points than the low bidder. So obviously that's wrong. And the way it should be corrected is the following. Other proposals will receive the product of the full point value multiplied by the fraction corresponding to the low cost divided by the proposer's higher cost. So once I put it into a formula, I was able to engineer it. Does anybody want me to repeat that?
We'll confirm that in writing.
We'll confirm it in writing, just so you know, it's just just so you have some information.
And if you could include an example, just so everything.
Okay, we'll include it. We'll confirm it in writing, and we'll.
Yeah, and I'll get it out, if that emails, I'll send it out on email.
It's basically if you're 10% higher, you get 10% less points.
Right. Right, that's exactly right. And that's what I thought all along I said, and a kind person pointed out to me that it was incorrect. All right, by the way, writing one of these is almost as hard as responding. So I think probably some of you might know that. All right, I'm going to go through the scope of work, and I'm going to go through the evaluation criteria. The scope of work starts on page 16 of the RFP. So it's fairly extensive, the scope of work, and we wrote it in detail so that you would understand everything that needed to be done. Okay, first of all, you have to provide adequate staffing with personnel qualified in the technical areas, operations, the laboratory, and administrative and management duties that are required by the state of New York to run the plant. And that's pretty simple. The personnel that you're providing have to have sufficient experience, certifications, etc., to run the plant in the state of New York. All right, so first part of scope work is getting the right staff that's certified in order to do operate and manage the plant. The facility is a 24/7 facility. So it does operate 24/7, 3 shifts, and the 2 evening shifts, I'm sure, are about what size? Great. The evening shifts?
6 and 5.
Okay, so 6 and 5 people on the later shifts. Okay, the successful proposer will provide mandatory training, operations, maintenance, safety, and supervisory skills. One of the issues that the owners want is a highly trained staff. This is a highly complex treatment process. I've been a water wastewater engineer and utility manager for 50 years. This would be my 50th anniversary in July. And I have made the statement that I have never seen a more complex wastewater treatment facility. And the fact that it's crammed on a 10-acre site doesn't make it any simpler. Okay, and the owners are aware of it. So what they want is they want you to provide training, significant training, to upgrade the skills of the current staff or the staff that you bring in. And we want a good, well-trained staff operating this facility. Okay, then it talks about safety. Clearly, safety is number one. We'll have a safety program. We want to review it in the proposal that you're sending in. We want to know what you've done with regard to that. You'll see it's in the evaluation criteria. Safety has to be number one. You have to provide a final safety program within 30 days of starting the contract. But we want you to talk about your safety programs in the material that you submit for evaluation and in the presentations. Safety is extremely important to the owners. All right, we're talking here about we'll be responsible for maintaining and manufacturing warranties on new equipment purchased by the owners as part of this construction. So that's pretty self-explanatory. The winning proposer, if the contract moves forward, will be getting a new plant to operate, brand new. But it's going to have a ton of warranties. I'm sure there'll be issues, that have to be dealt with to make sure that all the equipment is the way that it was designed and bid and paid for by the owners. So that will be part of the process. We want you to implement a CMMS program. We want that program, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One of them is we believe that is the most efficient way to operate a maintenance program for a facility of this size. But secondly, it provides documentation of what you've done. So, and that would be subject to occasional reporting to the owner. The owner wants to look at that, wants to see what has been done on the labor side, on the maintenance side. So it's really both for the owner and for you. I doubt if any of you would operate a facility without a CMMS anyway, but it is required. You'll be responsible for providing utilities, consumables such as chemicals, power, supplies, lubricants. You have to provide the equipment, the power, and the lubricants. Now, the owners have a special deal, a municipal discount for the power. And so I have been talking to several members of your staff that have been involved in this, and the arrangement will be the owners will continue to officially pay the bill so they can get the discount. But then they will pass that cost on to you. So you will be paying the cost, but you will be getting the value of the municipal discount. Now, were we to give you electric figures for what the plant has been operating at, it would not be meaningful for you in terms of operating this new plant. So we haven't done that. You're going to be transitioning from the so it really wouldn't be meaningful to do that. There are no historical figures that could be given to you that would be meaningful to you. I've gone through them. I've gone through them with the staff here, and that's why they were not included in the financial appendix. But you have to pay for the power, and the water is also a discounted deal with the town of Vestal or the city of Vestal, and that again by the owners keeping the utilities in their name, you will get the benefit of that as well. Okay, again, you've got to prepare a complete inventory of spare parts, materials, and chemicals when you take over. So you will inventory everything that is the property of the owner, and we will have that in our joint possession, so that we know we're not paying for that, and you know that that's the owner's property. You have to do that within 30 days of contract execution. Okay, so we want you to provide and maintain well-documented records of operations, maintenance, laboratory, personnel, training, safety, process control, daily inspections, materials, alarms, and any other significant events. All right, now, these are the things that you're used to doing. as you're in your business of contract operations. Nothing unusual here that the owner wants to see. They want you to keep the records that you need to keep according to state law and according to state rules and regulations. They also want you to keep logs. They want you to keep your CMMS records. They want you to keep those records so that if there's ever a question about operation or ever issues that arise that you need to talk to the owner about, you have documentation, and that document's also available to them if they have questions. So that's what the reason for that. We call that out because it is important that you keep those records. And I'm certain that that's the way you operate anyway in the business that you run. Okay, you need to maintain financial records related to as well in a manner that allows for review and or audit by the owners at any time. No question there, right? Successful proposal will operate and maintain the facilities in a manner that utilizes energy conserving practices wherever possible. The successful proposer shall coordinate operations of the facilities with the on-site construction activities. When new projects are identified and implemented, successful proposer shall be expected to provide program management services for all ongoing and planned projects. Okay, I think that is called out later in more detail. So I'll wait to describe the program management services when I get to that portion. Okay. But what this also means is that you need to coordinate with the on-site construction manager, which currently is James. So you'll have to coordinate with that team. The contract operations team, you'll be required under this scope to coordinate with that construction management team because they'll be the ones handing over the facilities team as they're completed. So that coordination has to be done, and that's the reason for this scope. The successful proposer shall be responsible for maintaining buildings and grounds of the plant and the terminal pump station, which I'll describe in a second, to be as clean and as aesthetically pleasant year-round basis. So the owner wants the plant to look good. I know you do too. And I've split my career between being a utility manager and also consultant. And I can tell you as a utility manager, I wanted my facilities to look good because that's the first impression that citizens get when they see it. Now, these citizens are paying a lot of money in their rates because of all these problems that they've had for years. They've been paying this money. They're going to want to see the fruit of that. And they're going to want to see it look nice year round. So that is an important part of the scope. Okay, the IPP, that's the Industrial Pretreatment Program. Okay, I've included in the appendix information pertaining to that. That will be the responsibility of the contract operator. There's two pieces to that. There's a management piece, which is currently a contractor to an engineering firm. And that will become your responsibility, whatever the successful responder is. And then there's an operational piece, which is the sampling and analysis of that. There is a laboratory, right? A certified laboratory.
Yes.
And I think that's described in the material in the appendix. But there is a certified laboratory at the plant. And so people at the plant will go out and take the samples and analyze them that are required by the IPP. So that is part of the operation, the IPP, both the management and the sampling and analysis. And information in Appendix K in detail on that. Okay, program management services. Let's get to that. All right. Right now, there is no capital plan for any future construction beyond what is currently being worked on. So there's this huge construction program right now that we've described to you, the details, the fine details of which are in the thumb drives that you picked up today with the non-disclosure agreement. And some of the other details that we'll provide to you that Ron has put together to show you today. That's what's being done now. There's no future program. Now this is going to be anywhere between a 5 to 20 year contract. Or 5 years expansion to 10, or 10 expansion to 20. So you know that during that period of time there will be capital projects that will come up for this plant. We all know that. So it's the responsibility of the responder to identify those projects on an annual basis and provide them to the owner when the owner goes through their budget process. So you'll be basically developing a capital plan for the plant and the terminal pump station, which is not adjacent to the plant, but which is part of the plant. It's the pump station that pumps all the flow from Johnson City to the plant. So it's a good sized station. And I'll talk about that more in a second. Okay? But the point is that you will identify capital projects. You'll submit them to the owners for their budget. Okay? The ones that are approved, the contract operator, you will become the program managers of the capital program from then on. From the time that one of your projects that you recommend is approved, the successful bidder will become the program manager. So you will manage the program as program manager. That there are a lot of places, and I had preferred to give to the responder design build projects and actually be able to do them as well as be the program manager for them. That is not allowable under New York law. Can't do the design build stuff. So, but you are not prohibited from answering engineering RFQs for design of these projects. Okay, and that will be up to the owner. You can work that out with the owner. But when the owner issues the RFQs for engineering services, a decision will be made at that time whether the responder, the contract operator, can respond to those. There's no reason legally why you can't. It depends probably on the size of the project, in my opinion. If there's going to be a real big project out there, they probably want an independent engineer. But that will be up to the owner as time goes on, but you will not be prohibited from that. But you will be prohibited from doing construction because that is design build construction is not allowed under New York law. Excuse me? Okay, of course, obviously, you have to perform all your work, every bit of it, in compliance with all regulatory and SPDES permit requirements. I don't need to get into detail on that, right, guys? You know what I'm talking about. Okay, and all that permit is in Appendix B. Of course, you prepare all reports required by the permit. Monthly operating reports, chemical usage reports, so whatever it is that you have to report to and it's in the permit. If it's in the permit, you have to do those reports, and of course keep records on them, make them available to the owners as necessary. Okay, and if the plant gets fined for exceeding standards or an overflow or whatever the issue is, you guys get to pay it. Okay? That's one of the reasons why the owners are doing this. They want to shift the risk over to you of those kinds of issues. I think they're pretty tired of paying fines on this thing. Okay, sludge and waste disposal. I think Craig kind of went over this briefly, but I'll go over it a little bit further. Okay, right now they've got basically primary settled sludge. That sludge is lime stabilized, dewatered, and goes to a landfill currently. Right? There's no septage or fats, oils, and grease that are allowed to be accepted by the plant. The plant does not accept septage. It does not accept oil and grease. And it does not intend to, primarily because there's no room for trucks to get in and out of there on that site. It's so crammed with equipment. And so you don't have to worry about septic. Okay? But as the solids contracts come online, then of course there'll no longer be lime stabilization. You'll be operating that equipment, which is anaerobic digestion with centrifuges for dewatering. But the disposal will still be to the landfill. So the ultimate disposal will not change. And of course that cost will be your cost. for disposing of the land. Okay, now 5.2, basically what that means is any waste that you generate on site in the bathrooms or washing or whatever you have to deal with. That's all that is. Okay, I'm not going to go, that's the extent that I'm going to discuss the scope of work. Let me talk briefly about two other pieces that we did talk about because we wanted to have full disclosure. And you bidding on a full disclosure. One of them is the terminal pump station. The terminal pump station is a good-sized station. It is not in particularly good condition. The report, preliminary engineering report on that is in your appendix. And I've read it a couple times myself, it's pretty detailed. Now, there is no current plan to execute the project that was recommended in that preliminary engineering report. It was not approved by the owner in this year's budget. So you're going to be operating that old station for a while. Okay, and presumably, if I were you, I would certainly recommend that in my first annual budget capital plan to do the TPS project. And the preliminary engineering's already been done. So that project is part of the plant operation, although it is, you have to, how far away is it from the plant? Craig?
Mile and a half.
So TPS about a mile and a half from the plant. Okay. Now the other project that we briefly mentioned is, it was a requirement for the plant to rehabilitate some of the stream bank around where the damage was during the flood. And some of that's been done, some of that's under construction. And it just means that it has to be inspected, and if there's any major issues like erosion or something, they need to be brought to the owner's attention and determine whether or not anything has to be done in terms of preserving the impact and the quality of the stream bank improvements. I don't see that as anything major, but it is something that has to be done as part of the scope. All right. So again, besides what you're used to doing all the time, operating the plant, terminal pump station, IPP, and stream bank restoration. All right, let's go over the evaluation criteria. And these are the criteria that will be used both in the reviewing of the written proposal, and if presentations are requested, it will also be the focus of the presentations as well. Okay. So again, we're going to develop a number of points that we're going to allocate to the total score. So the total score, if it were perfect, will be at some number of points, which we will decide before we actually start to do the evaluation. But the percentages of those points are indicated on each criteria, and of course these will be aggregated in order to come to a total score. That's how we're going to do this. So we've got 5 factors. First is technical. We want you to give us a plan on how you're going to do all this. All right, that's pretty simple. Tell us how you. I mean, it's a pretty complex job. The transition is difficult for sure. So we want a plan on that. We want a plan for how you're going to transition the existing plant that you, successful proposer is going to inherit. Right now, on the timeline, we're operating on 1 October. And you're not going to get the full completed plant by then. So how are you going to make that transition? How are you going to do that from the perspective of personnel, from operations, whatever you think you need to tell us about that? Of course, we want to know that you have a proposed OSHA compliant safety program. You need to present facts of that, and we want to know that you have such a program. Again, safety is a major consideration for the owners. We want you to give us a timeline for implementation and maintenance, for operations and maintenance. Basically in conformance with the full scope of work and also the schedule that you've been given. You've got a schedule. You're going to be given, Ron has developed a schedule for you, which we'll provide to you. So based on that schedule, how do you see working a plan for that? We want to know about your CMMS program. Just want to know which one it is and what level do you operate at. You know, some people have CMMS, oh, I got, Hanson or whatever, Maxima, and they use it to produce work orders. You know, and that's it. Some of my utility clients are that way. You know, they buy a real expensive system and they use it for work orders. They don't use it to record labor. They use it to record materials. They don't put all that stuff in there so that they can make some good use out of it for decision making and cost cutting. So we want to know where you are with that, what you're proposing for the plant on there. We want you to tell us how you're going to develop a PM program and an O&M manual. So this plant is 13 construction projects, 13 separate projects. And each project is a requirement to provide an O&M manual to the owner. So you're going to get 13 O&M manuals, contractor level. And we want you to take those and put them into a single O&M manual for the plant. And you're not limited to what information that you're given by the contractor. There's information that you feel needs to be in there. We want you to do that. And we also want you to do a PM program. So once again, these are all new projects. You're going to get PM information from all these contractors, and we want you to assemble that into a preventive maintenance manual. And of course, we want you to stress preventive maintenance. That will be important. I need to stress being able to stand up without tripping. Excuse me. Okay. Also a plan for supportive program and maintenance. Here's what we mean by that. We don't expect you to have mechanics and electricians on site to fix every problem. And one of the benefits of contract operations to the owner is that you may have somebody in Cleveland that's a real expert at a particular major pump problem that you could bring in to do it. You know, that take care of that on a 24-hour notice basis or something like that. That's what we're talking about there. So we want to know what resources you've got out there. You can supplement the people that you have in Binghamton to do key things. And again, we don't expect you to be able to do everything other than of course you have to meet the New York State requirements for operations, etc. But we know that one of the benefits is tapping your outside resources. So we want to know what and where they are. Okay, basically. All right, that's the technical part, staffing plan. Again, I've split my career between consulting and utility management. For 20 years, I managed Palm Beach County Water Utilities, which is the third largest water wastewater utility in the state of Florida. And whenever I did any selections, it's always important to me to know who is actually going to work on this project. Okay, I want to know who's going to work on it. I want to see them at the presentation. Okay, because you can have the most wonderful company in the world that has done the best projects that ever have been done. But if we get your C team and not the people that did all those wonderful projects, that's not going to do us anything. So we want to know how you're going to staff this thing and who is going to staff it. Okay, that's very important. Okay, we want to know the experience of the staff in transition projects. Have you got done any transitions or even startups? What is the staff that you're giving us? What experience do they have in that? Okay. Okay, this is very important. We want to know how you're going to fulfill obligations to existing facility staff under civil service law and collective bargaining agreement that we referenced in the appendix. Now, the owner's intention is that existing employees have an opportunity to assimilate into your workforce. It's not a mandatory requirement, but the better you do with that, the better it will be viewed in terms of the evaluation. So there is a workforce that is pretty good there, and they have, as you know, as you can hear, put up with a whole lot of difficulties. And so they've got that historical background, and we do want to encourage, in terms of the evaluation, we're going to be looking at your plan for how you're going to assimilate these employees into your workforce. I'm sure you will anyway. I doubt if any of you can go out and hire 20 or 30 people right now and get them to come to Binghamton, New York, and by 1 October. So good luck with that, if that's what you're planning. Yes, sir.
I'd want to make one reference to the RFP itself. I believe it speaks for itself, and that would be on page 7, numbered paragraph 5, questions. Discusses this conference, but it then goes on to talk about, in effect, the code of silence and the access point through the owner's contact, Mike Bay, purposes of speaking with representatives of the existing employees. There is a process in place, and I think it speaks for itself on page 7, paragraph 5, the third paragraph, paragraph 5.
All right, so the last two items on staffing is we want to again know about your training curriculum. And the reason why that's in staffing is because we expect that you'll bring on board many of the employees at the plant, and we want to know that they will be integrated well into your training plans and that they will be given opportunities to improve their skills and experience. So we just want to, we're including that in the evaluation. And then finally, of course, we want to know that your capacity. Do you have the capacity to do this? And I think that speaks for itself. All right, qualifications. We're going to look at everything, the depth and breadth of what you've done with water, wastewater treatment contract operations as your core business and its relevance to the requirements of the RFP. So we're going to be looking at that. If you look at the requirements for what the proposal should say, which I'm not going to go over, they're pretty self-explanatory. It's got an awful lot of questions about experience and reporting on what you've done, everything you've done, who the contacts are. So we're certainly, of course, care about your ability to do the project, and that's why the qualifications are part of the evaluation criteria. And as part of that, I keep talking about training. Before we want to know what training you're going to give, now we want to know what training you've given. So we want you to tell us, as part of our qualifications, we've come into this facility and given this training, come into this facility and given this training. It's obviously an important issue for the owners, and so there's actually a piece of the training in the qualifications as well. And then, of course, you have to demonstrate financial capacity. That's something I'm sure you're used to doing. Okay, presentation. Thoroughness and clarity. Presentation covers all the above criteria, and then we want to see the key personnel at the presentation. We want to meet them. Okay. We want to have them talk to us, tell us what they're doing. Okay. Now that's the. I've already talked about the correcting the cost piece. I think I've covered that in a pretty good detail. There will be a selection committee. I think that information is provided in the RFP, and we'll look forward to going over this and look forward to the presentations. And the presentations, let me tell you why I think they're even though there's not a huge amount of points attached to them, let me tell you why I think they're really important. Because this client's never done contract operations. It's not a renewal of someone that's used to doing it and knows what's done and all this kind of stuff. So the better these presentations are at telling them this is what we're going to do, and this is why, you should worry, about these things because we're so used to doing these things, and that kind of thing. You need to give a comfort level to the owner in the presentations, in my opinion, as if you want to win this job. So, okay, that's all I have.
Okay, I just have a few more things. It's very simple, real quick. Tour of facilities. Craig is going to be the contact. Craig will give you his email and his phone number. You will call him, schedule appointments based on his schedule, because he is still the acting plant manager. He still has other work to do. So Craig will schedule, you will schedule, and you will be able to get the tour through. I know some of you have asked me about multiple tours. Again, that's going to be based on Craig's schedule. We're going to use 2 weeks, right? The week of May 5th, May 12th.
Yeah, we have training, a lot of training coming up in May, so we'll get you through the plan. If you need a couple of days, we can get you through.
There will be areas of the facility you will not be able to get into because of the construction. Is that right?
Probably, but it'll be close enough that to see what they need to see.
But there probably are going to be some areas, because of construction, ongoing construction, you might not be able to get right into that area. But you will see basically from some areas. So before you leave, get Craig's phone number and his email, and that way you guys can start setting up your appointments to get over to the facility.
Yeah, my contact info, if you want to write it down. Area code 607-768-5116. That's my cell phone. My email is camatias@stny.rr.com.
You repeat that?
camatias@stny.rr.com.
Okay, before we open it up, again, one other thing I want to bring up is there probably some questions that you guys have we might be able to answer today. Some of them we might want to put in writing and have them submitted to me, and then we'll answer them back to everybody in writing. Some might be very simple questions that we can answer right now. But first of all, let's make things real simple. So I don't have to do anything. Viola? Here's your Ron's thumb drive. I had them all made up ahead of now. Utility partners. There's the thumb drive of Ron's presentation with everything that was on there. Jacobs. Infomark. Camden. There's your thumb drive. So now I have to mail them out. You guys have thumb drives.
We've noted who made the great catches.
Maybe bonus points.
Okay, so now let's open it up to any questions you guys might have that we might be able to answer today. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, are we going to be able to, it seems like the schedule that you have there is to complete your due diligence site visits by the 8th.
Can you speak up a little? I'm sorry.
He's talking about the site visits. We're going to schedule 2 weeks, May 5th, May 12th. So it'll be 2 full weeks. So it'll be the week of 5th through, the 8th. We added another week just because of Craig's schedule.
That will be confirmed by announcement.
So we did expand it out a little farther.
Let me make a point about the settings. As part of my career, I worked for Sewage Hill from 96 to 2003. And during that period of time, I actually worked with OMI as part of the City of Atlanta water system project. And I was going to run the Atlanta water system. And I'm glad that Sewage Hill didn't get that project. But actually we did, by the way. OMI won that first round of presentations, and then the mayor decided he was going to go by price only, and United Water got it, much to, I think, their unfortunate demise there. But at any rate, why do I not think you need as much time as you probably want on the site? There's no existing assessment to be done. When I went to the City of Atlanta, we spent 3 days doing existing condition assessment, vibration analysis on pumps, infrared photography on the, those are the kind of things that you have to do. I know what you have to do because I've done it. And it takes a while. At this plant, you don't have to do any of that. You're getting a brand new facility. Problem is you're getting into pieces. That's the problem for you to figure out. But as far as doing condition assessment, I really see almost no need for it. So you just need to get your hands on what's there and see what's there. And you've got thumb drives with all the design drawings and specifications. If you want to look at installed horsepower, if you want to look at all this, it's all there for you. So, having to do that at the plant, I see as less important than it would normally be for this type of a project. So that's my 2 cents on that. It's one of the reasons why we're really not planning on you coming down for like 3 or 4 days. That's not going to work. Okay. But I don't think you need to. Hopefully you would agree.
Any other questions? Yes.
A couple questions. Having been down at the plant, I believe I saw.
I'm sorry, can you speak up a little?
Having been down at the plant, I believe I saw trucks that were owned by the board that haul the sludge to the landfill. Are those trucks going to be turned over to the operator?
Yes. That's one of the reasons for the inventory.
Okay.
You did the inventory the first 30 days, and then whatever is in that inventory, then as part of the, you'll pre-negotiate how that's going to be handled in the contract.
As far as the landfill,
That would be a credit to the owner, I'm sure, during the negotiation.
as far as the landfill, of course, it's a county landfill. Will you have an agreement to take the sludge there for any particular length of time at any particular price, or how will that be handled? Do we just negotiate that?
There's a set price. It's a discounted price because we're a municipality. But there's no contract. They do require our analytical system so they know what we're hauling up there. And
So it's the concept is that whatever length of contract we have, 5 or 10 years initially, that the sludge would go to this landfill.
Right, that's the idea. The way this is written and the way the cost would be presented would be that you would go to this landfill for the length of the contract.
Just let me touch base. Okay. And Ken's here, our legal lawyer. Ken, I believe it's still going to stay as a municipal-owned facility under their management. So therefore, it's still be disposed of under a municipal at the landfill, right?
Correct. We're still the owners.
Yes. So you'll still
We
get
should
the
confirm
municipal
that with the
rate.
county, so there's no confusion.
So you'll still get the municipal rate for disposing of the waste at the landfill, not your own. You don't have to negotiate that.
Okay, so we just need to know the details of what the rate is.
I think there's inherent to your question is, what should happen if 3 years from now, the landfill refuses to take this stuff, and then there has to be a whole exercise about that. That is something that obviously would be an issue that would be negotiated with the owners at the time.
And the other thing is,
How can we do that? How can we develop a scenario for that? because we don't know. But if that would be a change condition that would, in my opinion, warrant a change in your contract.
No, what I think he's asking is something different. I think, I got all your emails. I will email you what the current rate is for disposal of the chemicals at, at the landfill. Craig, you have it, right?
Yes.
So I'll get it from Craig and I'll send out an email so you have it. You know what it is on there right now?
$40 a ton?
So right now it's $40 a ton. I can't guarantee you what it's going to be year to year. The county, I believe, keeps it pretty much flat every year for the municipalities at $40. I don't think that will change. So you can base it on, for the next year at least for sure, it's $40. But it's a county rate, so it's hard to, you know, I can't go and say the county's not going to change it to 45 a ton next year.
Yeah, but there is an index in the allowable index in the cost. So, you know, if your cost goes up 8% in 2 years, and you do have an opportunity to increase your cost to cover those contracts.
Well, this is a substantial dollar amount per year, so.
Correct.
The cost. This is a substantial dollar amount per year, so the cost might go up more or less than the, say, the CPI that we agreed to. How would you like to handle that? Do we try to negotiate with the county a longer-term agreement, or what would work?
Well, if I were you, I think I would want to negotiate something like that in the contract that specifies, and if there's a significant change, maybe define it in the landfill disposal costs or some other regulatory issue that prevents you going from the landfills, that, you know, you would handle it this way and you would be reimbursed this way. I think that's something you can put in the contract.
We'll just stipulate a suggested way to handle it, and that'll be included in our proposal.
I believe, now, with dealing with public works, I believe that the tipping fee at the landfill has been $40 a ton for the last 5 years. At least 5 years. I don't believe the county is going to increase it again. They always could. Again, it's up to their board and everything on what they want to do. But as far as I know, with council, it's been the same for like the last 5 or 6 years. So it hasn't significant. And I think before that it was like $38 a ton, and they raised it to 40, and they've been keeping it flat for the last 5 or 6 years. So they don't do a huge jump in price.
Another thing that I didn't know this was in the information. Who handles the billing for the cities? Collect those fees for the services.
Okay?
Actually, all of the municipalities, the board bills the municipalities collect the fees, and then we pay for the operation.
So you just have a few bills you send out. I got you. Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Yes.
Go ahead.
Regarding the current staff, are they members of the New York State retirement plan?
Yes.
And are there demographics available about the staff, their age, for example, their certification, those kinds of things that we could use to help on this transition plan that you're talking about?
I mean, I don't have a current staffing plan of age and demographics of any of the employees.
We've taken note of that, and we'll make sure that when we send out written answers to questions at this point, it's addressed.
Yes, we'll get you the information on that. I mean, offhand, I couldn't tell you.
Okay. Thanks.
Yes.
There's reference regarding sales tax exemptions, and in particular, it noted that they're exempt for material and equipment incorporated into the real property, which we understand. But my concern is in regards to sludge disposal and chemicals on the sales tax.
I didn't understand the question.
This question is sales tax on sludge removal and chemicals. Are they going under the sales tax exemption of the Johnson City Joint Storage Treatment Plant as an operator?
For municipalities have tax exempt status, but contractors are viewed differently in relation to items that aren't incorporated into it. So in particular, like I noticed, the utilities, the water, the electric would be paid by you, and then we would be reimbursing. But in particular, sludge disposal, you're anticipating that we would pay sludge disposal correctly, not through the way the
You're talking about the sludge disposal at the landfill?
yes.
The tipping fee, which is straightforward fee, so there is no tax included into that.
Yeah, I think to answer your question, the owners are still going to maintain ownership of the facility. So that's why you can get the discounted electric rates and water rates and the discounted landfill rates. Because they're still the owners of the facility.
So the landfill rates would pass through from you to us, and then we would.
I don't think we
pay you.
have looked at that yet. Do you want us to look at that? You want
I
to
believe the answer to your question would be is the facility pays the bill for the tipping fees. So you would pay the bill and then the city would reimburse you back for the cost of it. Or that should be included in your cost of operation of the facility. That would have to be included in the cost of the operation.
Does that answer your question?
How will it be billed?
Does that answer your
The
question?
county going to bill the municipalities, and then we'll pass that cost along so that they're getting that rate.
Yeah, we'll have to look into it, but I believe the way it's right now is the facility that the county bills the Johnson City Joint Storage Treatment Plant, not each of the municipalities. So, but we'll look into that and I'll answer that. That's one question that will get answered by email. Yes.
I know you mentioned.
Sorry, can you speak up a little bit? It's not very good at customers.
You had mentioned that power as well as water, as far as the rates and past receipts of that, how much power was used and stuff like that. But will the rate structure be provided to the proponents? And the reason for that is we still have to come up with our number. So we should be able to understand.
So I think if you're asking, can we provide you with the current rate structure on water and power?
That's correct.
Yes.
Yes. That will go out in email. I can give you a history of the facility too for the last couple of years, the cost of electric and water at that facility.
Yeah, but remember, be careful of that because it's not going to apply to your new facility.
And just to supplement, the duration of that agreement that you have existing with the power source. I mean, is that a 10-year contract, a 5-year contract with your supplier?
We signed a 3-year contract this year for the next 3 years for a municipal rate through Mega Corporation, which is through a consortium that runs the rates of electric through that facility. So they're through a consortium. The contract is for the next 3 years, and then the municipality will negotiate a new rate with the electric supplier and the water supplier. So if that answers your question.
One more question. It has to deal more with the influent flow. Will there be any data available from the standpoint of let's say, the past year on flow?
Yes, that could be made available.
Okay, as well as what those raw wastewater constituents would be, okay, as far as BUD loadings and stuff like that.
Okay.
That would be great.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you want influent flow volumes, like off MORs and that type of thing? And you also want the what they have for laboratory analysis for raw wastewater contamination, that's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of interest also, I think, on the flow is how it changes, how quickly it changes. You know, when you have these peak flows, do they happen in a half an hour, or the duration of the peaks and those kinds of things? Because I imagine
they can go up quite
put
quickly,
tanks in
yes.
and out. Yeah, they go up really fast,
Yeah,
probably.
we're not in a very dry area around.
No, for sure.
We had 53 inches of rain last year.
And you put tanks in and out of service, or you just have a whole bunch on?
They're always on,
They're always
unless
on,
we have
just in
one down
case.
for maintenance.
Right, just in case it rains. Okay.
Anything else? Okay, you guys have Craig's information. You guys can call and schedule your appointments. Craig will work around the calendar with his, his schedule. Because again, he's still the acting plant manager, so he's got work to do there too, besides taking you around. So,
How big will your groups be?
Are you planning on like a full day sort of guided tour, or can the guys walk around basically?
okay, well, first let me ask you one thing. We're not going to try to influence two groups in one day. So we're going to take one company through per day. So if for example, utility partners called and scheduled on Monday, that Monday is going to be for utility partners. We won't try to put a tour through in the morning, tour through the afternoon for two different groups. So that way Craig doesn't get inundated with two different companies. Again, depending on the size, I would say, Craig, what would you say to walk the entire facility? Half a day to walk the entire facility?
At least.
So, I would plan on one day you can get through the entire facility that day. But again, like Craig says, how many people, and I don't know the answer to, my guess is you need to have Craig with you to tour. You're not going to be able to walk through on your own, which is one.
Yeah,
You will want a tour guide.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Because you won't be able to figure out on your own how to get from point A to point B.
Okay. Will we be able to take pictures?
We prefer to have Craig with you when you tour at all times.
Or whoever he does.
Or whoever he designates to go with you. If you're going into a different area, he might have somebody else take you through the other area. But,
Will we be able to
yes.
take pictures?
Picture taking, is that allowed?
Yes. But I just gave you a whole bunch of pictures of Ron. Yes.
Is there a draft service agreement that we could see? Do you have one?
Correct service.
Service.
Could you repeat the question with your outdoor?
Is there a draft?
Outdoor voice is real good in this one.
Is there a draft service agreement for us to review?
Not yet. There will be.
Prior to the due date?
We're working on it.
Anybody else? Okay, well, I just, it was a long presentation. It wasn't really that long. But you guys got more information. You've got this first meeting. That's what's going to be your scheduled walkthroughs and go see the facility. I mean, like I said, it's almost $300 million worth of new construction at that facility. So, like Bruce said, you're getting a brand new facility over there. It's not going to be a lot of the existing stuff that goes there. So, I thank you for coming and good luck.